Hi everybody, this is Gabriel LeBlanc. I'm a professor here in the Chemistry and Biochemistry department at TU. And the purpose of this video is to really start thinking about different ways of getting ready for our science exams and our science coursework in general. And really trying to think about what makes our science courses different than some of the other classes that you might be in, and how we need to adjust the way we study for that in a different way. So we're about at the midterm point in the semester, so this is a great time to reevaluate how you're studying for the different courses that you're in, because you can reflect back on what worked and didn't in the past and start thinking about how you might change those strategies going forward. And what I'm going to use for this video are way too many memes, so either my apology is or you're welcome based on how much you enjoy those. So the first thing that we want to recognize is that we do need to study for our classes, and this is something that's not surprising or particularly informative for any of you guys. You know that for these difficult courses you're going to have to study. But what I really want to emphasize here is that the way that you study for these science classes really needs to match what it is that you're trying to learn. And so instead of just studying more, thinking about ways of studying more efficiently for the content that's in there. And so what we really want to be able to do is study in a way that makes that science test less dreadful, okay? And not something that you're going to enjoy, right? But something that you feel prepared for going into it, right? Being prepared for really demonstrating all of that content that you've learned in the course. So the major difference that we need to keep in mind with our science courses is the fact that there's quite a bit of conceptual material coupled with mathematical material, right? And so there's a lot of different ways that we can study for our various classes, but in general we need to think about studying for conceptual material differently than the way that we study for mathematical material. So for example, when we're having more conceptual content, right, that might be better suited for studying through, looking at your notes, using note cards, mnemonics, maybe explaining that concept to a friend and seeing whether or not they understand what it is you're talking about. And then on the flip side, when we're talking about mathematical material and concepts, we really need to make sure that we're getting practice. So working through, old problems or problems from the book, and really thinking about going beyond just the assigned homework, right? What is it that we can apply our practice with that might be advantageous going forward on these future exams? And so what I guess I'm generally trying to say here is that we need to study all the ways. There's more than one way to study for a particular subject. And as we start to think about ways that we might study for, classes that would have, all conceptual material, or classes that would have all mathematical material, our science classes are going to have to blend those two, right? And so studying for this material and this content is going to require us to study all the different ways for a single subject. Okay. So what I'd like for you guys to do is to pause the video here in just a second and really think about, where do your various classes fit on this graph, right? It wouldn't be a science talk if we didn't have any graphs, so you're going to have to make it for us. But, put your most difficult class here onto this graph, right? So how much math do you need to kind of be utilizing to be successful? How much conceptual material is there? And so for me, I teach chemistry, and in chemistry, I would put this, right in the middle of the graph, right? It's going to require nearly equal amounts of math and conceptual material to be successful. And your different classes are going to land different places on here. And so, I want you to take a second and think about that, and then also write down the studying strategies that are going to best suit for that particular class. Okay, so I do want you to physically write this down, right? I want you to take a piece of paper out, write what are some techniques that you can use to study for that science class that's going to match the mathematical requirements and the conceptual contents. So ready, set, pause. And so, now that we've kind of thought about the fact that we need to study in these different ways, right, we also want to think about what makes some of these components more challenging, in particular the math, right? So I know that when I look at the mathematical problems that I give my students in chemistry, a lot of them can feel like the way that our meme here shows, right? This idea that we have numbers on here, we can recognize that it's math, but it doesn't seem like it's matching in a way that makes any sense whatsoever. And so, the good news is that in these science courses, the underlying math that we're needing to perform is typically really fundamental, right? It's some things that we've learned before. The math itself is not the challenging part. The challenging part is converting the word problem into that more simplified math problem. And this is something that takes a lot of practice. And for a lot of students, it'll like one day click how you translate that word problem into that mathematical problem. And so what I'm going to recommend for you guys is to talk with other people about the strategies they employ for converting their word problems into math problems. And once you get to the math problem, you're going to know how to solve the problem. It's simply going through that translation. So some of the people that you might want to talk to, right, would be your professor, right? That's a great opportunity. Your other folks that are in your class, right? So your peers. And then also folks that would be upperclassmen, right? People who have taken the class before and have been successful. And so that's a really great opportunity to learn how they, look at these problems and convert them into that more simplified math that you know that you can conquer, okay? The other thing that we need to recognize is that there's a lot of material that you are trying to learn all at the same time, right? And so that's why we really want to emphasize study strategies that are going to help you be more efficient with that limited amount of time that you have. Right? At this point of the semester, you've realized, time management is one of those critical skills that you really need to be working on. And then we're adding on this idea that you also need to be studying more, right? And so I'm going to challenge you to actually not necessarily study more, but to study more efficiently, right? To separating different types of content in your class into different types of studying strategies, and not just reviewing your notes for all of your classes, because that single study strategy is just not going to work in your science classes, okay? Now, what are some other opportunities or things that you can take advantage of here at TU, right? So obviously as a professor, I have to highlight the office hours because it's, it's like this lonely time where I'm just hanging out in my office, nobody's coming by. And so this is really great opportunity to pop in, whether it's in person or virtually, to your class's office hours, and just start asking the question. If you don't know what that question is, you just know broadly, like, I don't know what's going on in class right now. We can start trying to hone down what it is that you're needing to know. Okay. One thing that a lot of students have done in the past, whenever we had in-person office hours more often, would be to go in as a group, right? And for a lot of cases with Collaborate or Teams, you can utilize that same concept by just kind of logging in at the same time. So that might be a strategy that you can use to take advantage of office hours more often. But another thing that I think a lot of people don't recognize is the fact that tutoring here at TU is free. Okay, so you can just Google tutoring at TU. It'll bring you to a site where you can book an appointment for one-on-one tutoring, and it's totally for free, and it's awesome, right? And so this is available for the wide range of classes that we have, and it's something that I think isn't recognized by all the students here, that this is a free service. And sometimes students are intimidated by meeting one-on-one with a tutor for a lengthy period of time, especially if they only have a question that seems pretty small or insignificant. And so for that, I want to highlight two additional things that are fairly new, which is the Chemist tutoring Collaborate session, as well as the Math Virtual Lab. And so both of these are actually drop-in tutoring sessions, so they're kind of meant for those times when you don't want to book an appointment, right? You can just pop in, and so you're going to be able to find those by going through Harvey, and it's going to be under my organizations, right, is what it's called. So take advantage of that. I think it's a great resource and opportunity both for chemistry and mathematics classes that you might be, just having a little bit of trouble with and want to get a different perspective. So in conclusion, right, I got to finish by making sure that we're on a high note, right? We're halfway through the semester, but for most of those science classes, a majority of the points are still left out there, right? And so if you're not doing great at this point, we just need to figure out a different way of getting prepared for those future exams so that we can really demonstrate and learn the content that's going to be fundamental to your future careers. So think like a proton, stay positive. Okay, gotta throw in a joke like that. And while science is hard, right, I know that with your motivation and trying to employ some of these different study strategies that you're going to be successful, right? And so really try to leverage all of the resources that we have here at TU that are really meant to help you be successful and understand the material. So anyways, thank you guys, and good luck with the rest of the semester.